Hey, Natasha, and we're actually joined by the key witness of that hearing today, former acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary,
Happy to be here.
for joining us here. So he only has a couple of minutes just off the top. He's got to get to the airport, so we have a few questions. But I just want to begin with the fact that, as you know very well, many Republicans in that room have already called for Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to be impeached. What is your thought on that?
Well, I still think the hearing's important, right? Because we actually delved into a lot of different issues. A lot of areas were outlined in my written testimony on where I believe, and I think the other witnesses would back me up, on the Secretary and the Department not faithfully executing the law, and in some cases actually putting up new policies that go against the law and how the immigration laws are written at the end of the day. And I think the results kind of speak for themselves. The results that we've seen over the last 27 months is not a safe, orderly system. It's not a humane system. That was all torn down, and the question is why? Why did that occur, and why isn't it changing for the better? And I think that was a lot of the topics at the hearing today.
Okay, but do you think any of those actions, as you just described them now, are impeachable?
Again, impeachment is up to the Congress to do. What I have been very clear about is the department needs new leadership. Needs new leadership for a new vision on how to secure that border. Border Patrol agents, law enforcement have lost confidence in the Secretary as well. And so I think there needs to be new leadership there.
So you agreed with the Republican assessment in that room. They said that not only was there dereliction, but they said it was intentional policies that were weakening our border laws. That's a pretty charged claim that this man is intentionally doing that. Why did you agree with that?
Well, it's absolutely intentional. Again, 27 months, policy after regulation has been put in place. So it didn't happen by chance. They didn't stumble into it. This was a concerted effort. Now, they can say, well, we didn't know that this was going to be the result of it, but this is the result of it. And we had actually warned them during the transition, not warned them, but talked to them during the transition to say, look, if you actually do some of the things that you campaigned on, it's going to be problematic for these reasons. And they continue to do it anyway. So absolutely, it's actually a very concerted effort on what they've done there. And again, I would contend it's not only on purpose, but it's to further a goal at the end of the day. And that's a very unsecure border, what we're seeing today.
Yeah. And Democrats, and I know Secretary Mayorkas would counter that there are certainly different policies. I also want to ask you, because you've been in his chair before, what policy prescriptions do you have? How do you fix this? What can he do within his authority to try to address the migrant surge and the situation we have now?
Well, I think it starts with a whole different fundamental understanding of what's going on that border. It's an enforcement posture. You need to make sure that you're protecting individuals coming across that border, but you're also deterring illegal behavior. And that's really what we have not seen for 24 months of this administration. I would restart border wall system construction, reinstitute MPP, our asylum cooperative agreements. I would continue to do a number of things, root out fraud in the asylum system, let ICE agents continue to do their work. These are all things that we did under 4 years during the Trump administration. Some were successful, some were not. So I would actually pick out the ones that were successful and continue to build on those. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here. Let's implement policies that work at the end of the day.
Okay, and one more point that was brought up that I thought was interesting is one of the Democrats on the committee said, when you hear the rhetoric about open borders are open, that there's a failure at the border, that is actually encouraging more migration. Your response to that?
I've not seen any evidence that actually that encourages more. Actions speak louder than words. And so the thing that drives more illegal activity along that border is if individuals cross the border and are released into communities, they pick up the phone, they call back home, and they say, I made it in. I made it to Chicago or New York or wherever it is that they want to get to. And then that drives another wave and another wave and another wave. So this idea that somehow they're listening to members of Congress and they're listening to radio and things of that nature, I don't give a lot of credence to that. I think actions are actually much louder than words here.
They've been talking about now a decrease in numbers that they're seeing. Are you hopeful for the last couple of weeks, the results that we've seen so far?
Well, look, for our country, I'm hopeful. But I think you got to really listen to what they're saying. They're saying the numbers from Border Patrol have decreased. That is true. The numbers at ports of entry of illegal aliens they're allowing into the country has gone up 800% at a port of entry. They're not talking about those numbers. And so in my mind, there's a little bit of a shell game going on here. Let's be honest with the American people. We can say these numbers have gone down, these numbers have gone up. They're not doing that. And so it's important hearings like this where we talk about all the facts.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Mr. Wolf, coming and stopping by, giving us a little bit of your time.